My name is Faye Lee. My birth date is 2/11 of 48. I'm in Halper, Utah. My grandfather came from Italy, who was a coal miner. My uncles then became coal miners. And then the nephews, but I'm the only woman that became a coal miner against everyone's wishes.
Is that right?
Bad luck.
And how old were you when you started mining?
I was about 24.
And why did you go into the mines?
I had a daughter that was a diabetic, and we had just found out, and I had a husband who was a drunk and would not stay working. My daughter needed the insurance badly. Without the insurance, we couldn't make it. So I decided it was either the mine or welfare. So I chose the mine, went to the mine, begged for a job, got my job, and my daughter got her insurance.
So which mine did you go to work in?
Wilberg.
Okay. And you mentioned that your family was not totally supportive of this new occupation of yours. What were they afraid of?
My uncles, of course, being a woman, we were bad luck going in the mine, and women weren't allowed in the mine. And so my uncle forbidded me to go non-union for the first thing. The second thing, he really didn't want me under because they were so afraid of what could happen. But like I told them, I can walk out on that street and be killed just like you can underground.
What was your first job?
I was on an all-girls crew.
Really?
Yes, and this is the greatest job we were paid, which was called a U4, which is next to the highest paid job. We went and picked up garbage, which was timber, boxes, cans of oil. We'd go do that in the morning, and at night, in the afternoons, we'd kind of mess around. It was straight days, which was fantastic, and not everybody got straight days. And we got to learn so much because we had time. They had time to teach us things that went on. We did some masonry work. We learned to drive the motors, which we had motor at that time. And so it was kind of really an interesting job because we got to learn more than most.
And how many of you were on this crew?
There were 7 women and 1 man, besides our boss.
What was your impression when you first went underground?
The first day I went under, we went to a mine that was a scab mine. And the guy that was taking us through, I'm only 5 foot tall, 4'11", and he would grab me by the back of the pants, and he was pulling me up and down the... And my first impression was, it's white under here. It's not black, it's white. And it was because of the rock dust. And I didn't stop to think. They rock dusted underneath there, and everything was snow white. And I'm looking like, and so it was a little different. And there was lights underground, and there was machinery going underground. It wasn't quite, I thought it was going to be pick and shovel and black. And it was everything. It was like there was rooms underground, actually.
And so for all of the mining in your family, it was still kind of a surprise when you got under there yourself.
Right. They didn't do a lot of talking. I mean, back then, today you get miners together. They talk about mine. Back then, I don't remember my uncles ever, and we met as a family every night at 6. They never talked about mining. I don't remember ever hearing much about mining as a child. Today, you get miners together, and that's all you hear.
Did you have your own bathhouse at the mine?
Sure did. We had a little tiny room that was our bathhouse, but it was fairly nice, and it was well kept, and the guys had theirs, and so we never had any problem. Like I've heard others had, but we never had any problems.
What was your relationship with the other miners when you got to be on a crew? Were you the only woman on the crew?
No, there was 5 women on this crew and 1 man. But we had to ride down sometimes on a motor with some of the guys, and we ate in a lunchroom with some of the guys. And at first, it was really hard. They were nasty mouth. I mean, very nasty mouth. And one day, one of the men were really giving me a rotten time, and I stood there and I ate and listened and listened. So I got up and grabbed some rock dust and I started throwing it on the sides of the kitchen, and then I threw it at him. And he said, you have no business under here. And I says, I'll gladly quit if you will take care of my children. I have 4 children. If you will pay for my children, I'll quit today. I said, I'm here because of them. I'm not here to impress you. I'm not here to date any of you. I'm not here for any reason other than to take care of 4 children that need a mom, they need a house, they need food, and they need medical. But if you'll take care of them, I'll quit. After that day, his name was Fancy, and to this day I'll never forget him because we became the best of friends, and he hated women underground.
So what positions did you hold in your career as an underground coal miner?
I was general labor. I was a mason. I could do masonry work. I worked because I didn't go to work one day. I had to do a graveyard shift. And my boss sent me for a pork chop, which was a piece of metal that looked like a pork chop. And I went and got it. And then he decided I knew what I was doing, so he quit razzing me. But I worked one day on a crew, and it was just masonry or wherever they needed us.
Did you ever drive a shuttle car?
Yes, I have. The first time was it was different, but yes, they taught us how to drive a shuttle car. That was the greatest thing about where we worked, is we got to learn to drive shuttle cars. We drove motors. We drove like the trolleys. We had tracking trolleys in the mine, and that's how we would get into the mine, is in a little trolley, like a little car, and we'd go in and out with those. So we got to learn to drive those. A tractor. I learned to drive a bobcat. Forklift. I mean, there was a lot of things I got to learn because of my crew,
Did you ever work the belt line?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
What'd you think of that?
There was times it got pretty hard. The shoveling kept you in shape, but it was hard. There was times we've had overspills, and when you have an overspill or an A, which was called an A line, where they would actually close the mine down on an A. The mine superintendent would go in and close it down if you had too much coal on the sides of the belt. And there was about the whole mine had to come out and shovel until we got it all picked up.
How large a mine was this?
I would say it was one of the largest in the 80s. It's the one that we had lost 19 people at the fire. So I would consider it was fair. It was one of the largest. So I wouldn't know exactly how many, but they ran all 3 shifts all the time, and we were always running, and we were going for a record at the time that we had that fire.
When you exited the bathhouse at the beginning of your shift to go into the mine, how long did it take you to ride into wherever it is your work area was that day?
Okay, that would depend on where we as a crew was going. There was times it took us 45 minutes. There was times it would take us 2 minutes, sometimes 10 minutes. It just depended where we were going at the time. There was 3 mines at that time working: Deer Creek, us, and I think Trail Mountain. There was 3 mines. Desby Dove was on the top, Deer Creek, and then us, and it shifted. And so when it shifted, the mountain had shifted, and it just came down so much. So it's kind of different.
Scary?
You know, really, I was never scared in there except once in all the time I was underground.
Tell me about that one time.
We had seen smoke in front of us. There was a gentleman that had been underground many, many years. His name was Tin Ear. And you could see the smoke, and you could see, you could just see like the haze of the smoke. And there was like 4 or 5 of us, and we were walking out, and all of a sudden he found a rope. He's who kept us calm. He tied our belts together, says, "Come on," and let us out. And that was the only time I was ever scared. To consider really scared. I liked it underground, and I liked it.
Why?
It was my place. I mean, I'd go into there and I felt secure. My boss was fantastic. My crew was even better. I had the best crew anyone could ever have. The crew that I had was just, they made you feel so good. And I'm crying because I lost my son at the time. And my crew is who kept me strong, kept me, they were just a great crew. And they made you feel like you were always protected. So I was never scared.
You had mentioned that when you first started, you had an opportunity to learn about the mine and explore the mine and that sort of thing. Tell me some more about that. What did you see underground, and whereabouts did you go? And did you get in trouble for doing it?
We could have, I won't say we could have, yes. We went up to the fan. We walked out to the fan. We went to all the ruins. We went into some old workings, which are crosscuts. You would go through crosscuts, which we should have never been going, because if something would have happened, they would have never found us, of course. But you've seen a lot of the old ruins. We actually had water up to here. There was places in there that we actually had a little boat that we would actually take a little boat from one end to the other. And but there was a lot of old ruins where you could see where they had, they've left everything in there. All the belts, just all kinds of old stuff. And it was fun to go looking, which we really had no business, but it sure was fun.
Tell me some of your most memorable stories from being a miner.
My partner and I walked. Some gentleman got killed 2 or 3 weeks before this happened, we walked down to this crosscut, and we were bringing back the cars back out for the miners to go back in. And we walked in this crosscut, and there was a light down there, and we were the only people underground. And we swear that he was in there, and he used to write his name, and it was Sasquatch, and he would write it on the walls and stuff, and we swear he followed us. So that was, one I always said he was a good friend of mine, and he was always following me, taking care of me. And the day that I made Fancy my friend was also a memorable day, when he didn't want women in the mine, and him and I became such good friends. And the day that my first day that I went to work as a coal miner, that was I could take care of my children, and I knew that I could do it.
How long did you do it? How long were you?
8 years.
8 years? And why did you stop?
I had a little boy, my son, Jimmy. He kept dreaming of me getting killed in the mine. And when the fire happened, I stayed until, I stayed and helped afterwards at the call, calling miners out. Anything I could do. I brought food from McDonald's. I did what I could do there, but I never went back after that. Well, of course, we didn't go back, but that was my last.
You mentioned that your uncle forbid you to mine if you weren't a member of the union. So you must have joined the union.
I did. My Uncle Frank Bonacci brought the union here to Carbon and Emery County. And all my family were United Mine Workers. So, of course, I went union. I am union. And I guess I'll always be union.
How have you seen the local economy change with the closure of so many mines?
People are moving out. People are leaving. People are losing. They're just losing everything. I mean, people at Deer Creek Mine right at this moment are scared to death, because we are losing most of the mine. The men are either going to Colorado or going to Wyoming to work, or they're losing everything they've worked for all their lives.
Is there anything else about your experience as an underground coal miner that you'd like to tell us that I haven't hit upon?
All I can tell you, these are things that you can actually check, and people can check. It was such a family. We always had Labor Day. The town would come together as on Labor Day at parks, different parks, and we would all become one. I mean, it didn't matter who you were. We were all family at that time. It was a party. There was free hot dogs, free popcorn, parades for the kids. The last Labor Day, my daughter was the last Labor Day queen, and that's been so many years ago. And it's like when we lost that, we really lost a lot as a community, because it was one day we all were family. And I think when you miss being united, it's hard to get people together as one anymore.
What was your favorite part of being a miner?
Just saying, I can do it. This was my Uncle Tony belt, which he used, as you can see, very well underground. And why these are important to me, because he was my godfather, and the mining, which is very much to me, and he was so much. And this was his number, which was 264. That was his number in the ground. And this was in case he was ever burned up or if there was ever a fire. This is how they would know this was Tony Ori. So that was his. And like I said, you can tell it's been a well-used mine belt.
What went in the little pockets?
This was his battery. Right here was where his battery for his light went in there. And some of his tools, I guess, would go right here. So
Did he make this for himself?
You know, you can buy it, but to be honest with you, this I think he made himself. As you can see, these are old rivets that he had. So as I look at this, you can see where he changed the holes. And so I think this was one that he made for himself. Someday I want my grandson, I have one grandson, and I want him to have these so he has an idea what went on in the coal mine over 50 to 60 years ago.
Tell me about this.
This is an old roof tapper. They would tap the roof like this, and this is how they would take and bring the top down. If it looked like it was cracked and was coming down, they would just take this and bring it down. So that is what a fire boss would use walking through the mine. And so here's, as you can see, it's a little heavy, but it has a lot of miles on this. And
so when they tapped, they were looking for kind of a hollow sound?
For hollow and loose, and the loose coal. You can kind of tell in the mine if it's loose or like maybe it's going to come down, and you could see where maybe there would be a crack in there, and they would just take this, and you can see as it's been made, and bring it in and then take it down so it would not fall on someone. These are from methane. Now this one here was my uncle's, and it is quite old. As you can see, it would light, and they would carry it on their belt, on their back, with a little tiny flame. And if methane would be there, the flame would light up so that it would warn them as they're walking through the mine. I think that there are little blue lines that would tell you probably how much methane or how much stronger it would be.
Is this a technique that is still used?
No. They have machines now that they carry. So these are kind of obsolete now. And this was my Uncle Tony's lunch bucket. And to me, this is the most favorite thing in the world. My aunt would make him a lunch, and they used to carry water down in here. They would carry water in here, and then their lunch would go in here. So, of course, this old lunch bucket has been underground many, many days, as you can see all the marks. But each and every one of them, this whole lunch box means so much.